Hi everyone. It's really incredible to see this coming together. Those two discussions about those two technologies, AI and blockchain, they're really the most transformative technologies of our lifetime. And personally, I'm very lucky to have a pretty unique vantage point into both technologies. Before being CPO at Chainlink Labs, I was leading TensorFlow, Google's machine learning platform. It's the largest machine learning platform in the world with 3 million developers. Before that, I launched the first AI assistant at Meta, Facebook back then, M, with 200 million users. And now I work on Chainlink. So it's very natural for me to think about how those two technologies are going to intersect. And so on the one hand, you have AI, which is the first time that we have intelligence at scale. On the other hand, you have blockchain, which is the first time that we have coordination, incentives, and programmable value at scale. So it's really the first time in our history that we can automate intelligence and money. So you could start thinking about what happens when you have autonomous agents with access to unstoppable billions of dollars together. And it's really limitless to think about what happens when those two really collide. When we launched Functions back in Denver, we talked mainly about how blockchain will tap into AI. We talked about how smart contracts can use functions, now GA on mainnet, are going to be able to tap into AI systems, for example, for trading bots. So it's pretty clear that smart contracts will tap into the best AI strategies to make predictions, and that's going to outcompete any sort of human trading strategies. And that is now possible by plugging a smart contract into any AI system that you can think about. Gaming is also a really interesting use case as well. You can have a gaming bot that just taps into an AI system to make the best move. So if you think about how AI is now beating any human at any kind of game that you can imagine, that's pretty much game over, right? AI, like smart contracts, will just tap into the best AI system and win. So good luck with humans playing games on blockchain, basically. And then the third one would be generating art. And so with my friend Lawrence, we had a great demo back at Denver when we talked about how we made a demo of a smart contract that generated art using DALL-E and just put it on a chain. It's really cool. So today, I want to talk about the other direction. I want to talk about how AI can use blockchain. And I want to share 7 ideas with you today. So the first one is about verifying content authenticity. GenAI and ChatGPT have really turned our world upside down. Anyone can create a fake image or fake video that are ultra realistic. Like in this world, it's going to be impossible to tell true from fake. This is a fake image of Donald Trump getting arrested. So if you think about it, we already live in a pretty divided world where we can't agree on the basic facts, like election results. So if anyone can download a free software and create a video of a politician saying or doing anything, like, we don't have a democracy anymore. That's what's going to happen. And so we need a place that we can store and attest to authentic content. That's really vital. And this is a great application for blockchains. You can think about how we will have devices recording, so cameras or microphones, who will be able to capture a signal and sign that they actually did capture the signal on that time and that location. And then This will be tied to identities, where people will say, yeah, I'm the person who is holding this camera, capturing this event on reality. And then this will be tied into oracles, which will come to consensus with multiple viewpoints of multiple individuals that observe this thing on reality. And this is what's going to compose truth. This is going to compose anchors of truth, right? And this is really important because we will need to have these anchors, again, to go back to looking at a piece of content and figuring out, is this piece of content authentic or not? Well, you're going to be able to go on these ledgers, tap into those oracles, and check whether this thing is true or fake. And even AI models will use that, because AI models, LLMs, don't know what's true or what's fake. They don't have a basis for that. They're just fed data. So they're going to be able to tap into, programmatically, these ledgers that will say, this thing is authentic, this thing is fake. Then we go into verifying identity. So we're all social creatures. We all look at what other people say, and if enough people say the same thing, we tend to believe them. This is normal behavior. But now AI agents can manipulate people's opinion on a massive scale. They can make up stories that are very believable. They can make up a story that you will believe. They could be personalized and targeted to your opinion. They can hide behind fake identities. So what we're talking about here is troll farms on mega super duper steroids. So verifying people's identities in a privacy-preserving way is really the key to fighting misinformation. This is what keeps our society from imploding. So then, once you have authenticity and identity, you can get into ownership. You could say, okay, this piece of content is authentic. It's linked to this identity that's authentic. So this person owns this piece of content. And this is huge for intellectual property. Gen AI is just breaking the mold for intellectual property. Anyone can create an amazing poem, a book, a movie script in minutes. This used to take trained professionals weeks, months, years. Now, anyone downloads software, free software on the internet, takes minutes to create. This is what caused the Hollywood writer strike. And it's a huge problem because if you cannot reward creativity, if you cannot reward creators, then you don't have creation anymore. If you cannot reward original creators, they might not be any longer original creation. But with blockchain, you can record who owns what. You could prove that, hey, I created this thing. I'm the one who created this thing. It's on this blockchain. And this is how we're going to be able to preserve intellectual property. From there, we can go into solving another big problem in AI, which is provenance. How do you know that this piece of generated content is linked to this piece of original content? Well, in AI, there are techniques to say, okay, well, this data set has been used to train this model, and this model has been used to generate this piece of content. So if you work backwards, you could say, okay, well, this new book is actually attributable to all these books that have been written by all these authors. And now you can start making an attribution, a provenance map, which is the basis for anything that you'll want to do from an attribution standpoint. And this will need to be stored on a blockchain, because anything that you'll want to build on top of that will need to be, again, tamper-proof and distributed and neutral. By the way, this is how we solve enterprise adoption as well. Because if you're an enterprise, you're not going to use Gen AI to create a logo and then get sued because the model was trained on copyrighted material, just like this Getty lawsuit. So you need this provenance and this attribution map. And now you put it all together, and you can build an actual incentive system, right? You could build a system between data providers and model builders and model consumers. So you have a model consumer who's going to generate a new piece of content, presumably get paid for that, and is going to be able to pay the model builder, who's going to be able to pay the data originator. And this is basically tokenomics. This is what tokens do. So blockchain, again, is just the perfect application to create the system if all the building blocks have been put on-chain before. And a big problem in AI is mutualizing data. So you need a lot of data to create good models, and good data is rare. And usually the way the field has solved this is through open source. And open source is fantastic. I love open source. It's a phenomenal idea. But you need a way to incentivize sharing rare and valuable data that enterprises or individuals are not willing to just put open source as a public good. And this is how you do that. And this is so profound because we're seeing AI accelerate scientific discovery. AI is coming up with ways to predict lung cancer, or create new proteins, or finding ways to do carbon capture in ways that we have never imagined. The way to accelerate this is by enabling data mutualization. And by that, we will accelerate scientific discovery. And this leads us to verifiable AI. So we're going to have these amazing models in healthcare and education. We're going to need verifiability. We're going to need to know how the model works if it's going to be using an MRI machine. We're going to want to know what is the AI teaching our kids. We're going to want to verify. We're going to want to know what kind of bias is in there. The existing models are already conditioned to answer you a certain way. And who's making that decision? Not us. So, and there's a lot of talk about regulating AI, by the way, because regulators, they don't know how to deal with deepfakes. They don't know how to deal with intellectual property. They don't know how to deal with verifiability. And bad regulation would really kill AI. It would be terrible. This is a path forward. This gives a way to put the right systems in place, the right incentive structures in place. Okay, and finally, decentralized AI. AI is too important to keep centralized in the hands of few actors. There are 4 companies today that have the biggest large language models, that can afford to build them, that have access to the data to build those. And we need to find a path for decentralization. Open source is already an amazing mechanism, and players like Meta and Google are actively contributing to open source. But here's the first question. How, as an individual, you get the guarantee that you have access to your own AI with your own private data? How do you do that if the AI stays centralized? And then there's a question of whether we should rely on centralized entities to keep open sourcing the best models. Bitcoin was a reaction to over-centralization of money. So is the same thing going to happen in AI? So do we create a $1 billion DAO to create our own LLM? Or maybe zkML opens a path forward for running blockchain, for running AI on blockchain? So these are all fascinating open questions that I personally spend a lot of time thinking about. So I'm impatient to hear what our panelists have to say about those topics. Thank you.